Hello, mate, to
Yeah.
Thrive Nation. You're out there, you're listening, and you think you're not addicted to sugar, but you may well be. And I've got a sugar addiction specialist here, Bitten Johnson, who's actually the expert of experts when it comes to this addiction model that I think more people need to know about. And we've got categories, we've got assessments. She's developed a very objective, quantitative assessment that we're going to talk through. And two of my health coaches are going to go through this process to become certified. Why? I think it's probably the most unknown diagnosis out there, and we need evaluation. So welcome to the show, Bitten Johnson.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. And you have got one thing. I looked at your website and I see that you're doing amazing things. And a lot of people do that in the healthcare or coaches and that. But sometimes if they miss addiction, it's like pushing a Pilates ball under the water. You can get good results with your client, but it will not last.
Yeah.
And here's where I come in and help you to add something to your program so that people will catch that from the beginning.
Absolutely. Even the different categories of harmful eaters and harmful users, I think is very, very important, because I think a lot of people in that category will be listening. But to grab people's attention, you think you're not addicted to sugar. Bitten's going to go through the three categories, but especially that one, those that are addicted to sugar. What are the signs and symptoms of those addicts?
Okay. First of all, loss of control. That is one of the most important symptoms to see, but you don't really want to see that one because it's so painful. All the times you promise, I'm going to do this diet, you do a diet, you do beautiful, and then you have one bite. And then you think, oh, that went well. So tomorrow you take 2 bites. And before you know it, you have lost control over your eating again. You start hiding, lying, sneaking. That's another symptom. People don't hide, lie, and sneak about cucumber. I promise you, I've never met one. So, it's the certain foods. And then I think another symptom is shame, shame over, you think you're crazy, you think you're stupid or no moral or low character. It's not. Your brain is hijacked. So you have the loss of control. Not everybody gain weight, not at all. Some people are very, very skinny. Many people are normal weight, and others are overweight. The problem is that it affects your brain. So another symptom is you get is foggy brain. You have strange bouts of tiredness that you don't know where they come from. You lose energy. You feel miserable. You can feel anxiety or anger, irritation, but you prefer eating instead of being with your family. So you start isolating, and you get the high from eating. So you're more into intensity with your drug than intimacy with people around you. And it's also the shame that makes you back up. You don't want people to see what you're doing. How you get up at night, or you go to a dinner, you eat normal, and then on the way home, you go by the store and you buy a lot of, crazy foods, and you start eating that. And then the next morning you feel, miserable and think, why didn't I do that? I'm never going to do it again. And you do it again. Your stomach get upset because, these kind of processed foods and ultra processed food, they ruin your microbiome, your intestinal flora. So you more easily, you will have inflammations and infections and virus and get a cold, and you start feeling miserable in that way. And you think, what's wrong with my body? You get strange ache and pains in your body that you didn't have before. You don't know where it's coming from because it's a low-grade inflammation. So, all these symptoms, you lose concentration. Actually, so many of my clients have told me, I thought I was getting dementia or something, because they get into cognitive decline. And the thing is that there are 2 organs in the body that are extremely sensitive to the wrong food or the wrong fuel mix, as I'm saying. The brain. So you get a type of something we call glucose cerebral glucose hypometabolism, which is that your energy, if you think about it, the glucose doesn't go into the cells in your brain anymore. That's why we love ketones, right? But that's another story. But you know, your cells get somewhat blocked in your brain. And that also lead to having problems with your sleep. So my clients used to say, yeah, I sleep, but it's like I sleep above the bed and I'm tired when I wake up. And the other organ too that affects a lot, especially in women, is your thyroid. Our thyroid is very important for a high energy level that is working properly. And when you eat non-nourishing foods, you know, it's going to be lower. And also the problem with that is that the healthcare doesn't recognize it, because it's one day you have a hyperthyroidism and then the other day you have hypo. So, you know, it's very hard to diagnose an intermittent functioning thyroid, but it affects the whole body, your adrenals. You can get burnout, you know, you get all kinds of weird symptoms, but mostly it is, you think you have a depression, you think you eat on your depression or moodiness or, you know, unhappiness. But actually it is a loss of energy. And that's when I saw, when I looked at your page and everything, you know, there was a high energy, and that's what we need to restore. We need to repair mitochondria, we need to repair energy. So I have a slide that says, you think you eat because you're miserable, but you are miserable because you eat the wrong food.
Yeah.
And that could summarize what addiction is all about. But it's important to understand it is a physical brain illness. And you get physical, psychological, social, or spiritual consequences. You lose touch with life and your life energy and, you know, how you feel. So that's terrible.
Yeah, and that's what's important to the evaluation, whether there's an addiction or not. Because if someone's got a
Yes.
cocaine addiction or a heroin addiction, we don't
Yes.
start looking at trauma and post-traumatic and doing the psychosocial model and giving them therapy. We have to stop the ingestion of that addictive substance. So if someone's an addict, we have to stop that. And that's where the assessment comes in. When I looked at this thing, the assessment's crucial. But we are going to get to interventional techniques and tools a bit later. So if you're listening or you're watching on YouTube, we will get that. The next category that I want to go to is signs and symptoms of harmful users or harmful eaters. So that was the signs and symptoms for those that are having a sugar addiction. And sugar addiction, from what I know your work, is not only sugar, but sugar and flour. Those two things that are very, very important. So just go through, and if I haven't said anything exactly accurately, let's possibly go through the harmful users now, because some people are saying, no, that's not me. I'm not I don't have the addiction. Because I also don't like saying that I'm an addict, that my actual identity is wrapped in when I say I am an addict. I like to say that I've got a sugar addiction, which I do, and that's why I want to do the test myself. I have dark chocolate every single night and I seek it out, and it's always in the pantry there. And, you know, I've sort of, you know, condoned the fact that I've moved off all other sweets and other processed foods that I can have dark chocolate, but it's there and I seek it out. Now, does it, you know, affect my dysfunction? That's what I want to do the test for. But take us through harmful users or harmful eaters.
Sure, I will do that. But first, I'd like to explain sugar. Why do I say sugar addiction and not food addiction? When I started this journey 32 years ago, you know, I met a person that I said, how come I quit drinking and I quit smoking, but I can't quit chocolate and ice cream? And she looked at me and she said, maybe you're a food addict. And I laughed at her and said, no, I'm not a food addict. Food in Swedish is, you know, meat and potato and, you know, fish, and food is food. And I had no problem. I never had loss of control over food. I never binged on cod. You know, I ate a normal portion and so forth. And my mom cooked from scratch, very good food. It was never a problem. But as soon as I put a piece of chocolate or started eating ice cream, I lost control. And then we didn't know a lot about insulin resistance syndrome at that time. We didn't even talk about the pancreas or, you know, that type of thing, which is sad, but that's the way it was. So later on, I started to eat, you know, fruit and brown grain, brown rice, but, you know, I always had cravings and didn't feel well. So I understood there was more to it. So today, sugar is any sugar, any type. It is sweeteners. It is any flour. Our bodies are not made to eat powders. We are made to chew. And it is processed food with several ingredients. And now the ultra processed food, which is much more sinister because it's even more chemicals in them, more ruining your body. And in the ultra processed food, there's no micronutrients, you know, and people don't understand that any starch, potatoes, rice, whatever you take, when you chew it, the enzymes in your mouth will break it down to starch. Starch is sugar. So, you know, pasta is sugar, bread is sugar, but I think Dr. David Unwin in England, he summarizes that very, very good. He say, flour is sugar molecules holding hand. So when you chew them, and then, you know, you can measure that in your blood, and you're going to see if you eat a lot of potatoes or rice or pasta or bread, you know, your blood sugar is going to skyrocket. So, but if people have said to me at that time, but do you have a sugar problem? I would have said, sure. And when I asked people, do you have a food problem? They said, no, I don't have a problem with food. But what about sugar? Oh, yeah. So that's why I love to use the terminology sugar, and then I explain what it is. And also that we are sugar sensitive. So, you know, people are more or less sugar sensitive. We have a unique biochemistry, which is very, very good, I think. That's nice. You don't have mine, I don't have yours. So we have to be very respectful of that.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
does that include fruit in that? Are you saying the sugar from fruit, or is that sugar that's in fruit? Okay.
Yes, it is fruit. And you could get into a severe relapse by start eating fruit if you're an addict. So let me just go through the groups. We do have the social users or normal users. You know, there are many of those. They don't even like sweets a lot. They like food. They eat food. They can have a piece of chocolate. Nothing happens. No charge. They're not going to run to the store and ask for more. And this is the same with alcohol. They have maybe a glass of wine, half a glass, they put it away. Nothing happens in their brain. This is a biochemical response. It's not because they are better or stronger, has nothing to do with that. They are born with that biochemistry. They are sort of steady state all the time, you know. They don't overeat or undereat, or they don't mess around with food or anything, because their brain don't react to it. It doesn't become charged. So trying to explain to a normal user about addiction, that's like trying to explain red to a colorblind. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the next category that I like to address is the harmful users. They are not addicts. If you do the assessment on them, the whole big sugar assessment, you're going to see that they don't have that type of loss of control. They can overeat, they can undereat, they can mess with food, but they don't have that high charge response to different types of sugar. They don't go bonkers. They don't highlight and sneak and do all kinds of weird things in order to keep their drug. They eat when they are depressed. You know, the classic is you see that unhappy person, somebody just broke up with them and they eat ice cream and cry on TV. Or that's a picture we often get, right? Or they eat chocolate or comfort eating. And those people can comfort eat, they can overeat. They can eat because nobody taught them about nourishment and food. They don't know. They think McDonald's is very healthy. You know, they have no culture around food. And, you know, stress is a big culprit. They can overeat when they're stressed or undereat or eat poorly or so. But then when you start looking at their pattern, they do not have that severe, deep loss of control. So that's why we do the assessment, to make sure. Because why is that important? Well, I'll tell you. It's extremely important when we work with treatment, because with a harmful user, you can improve their life. You can help them with, stress therapy. You can help them with emotions. You can teach them what good food is. You can improve their life. They do get consequences. They can become overweight. They can actually even have diabetes type 2, but they're not addicts, right? So you can use a moderation food plan with them, and they will feel better, and they're going to start feeling so much better that they want to improve more.
Exactly. And they don't have to stop the drug. And I think we must
No,
call it a drug. They don't have to stop it totally because they're not addicted to the sugar.
right.
So they
And
can
that's
modify it and have a little bit. And maybe that's where I'm at, because I'm having, that
sure.
dark chocolate,
Yeah.
2, 3 pieces, a little bit more now because my mom's been very, very sick. So I've had more. But I'm not, if it's not there or I'm out, I'm not like, oh my goodness, I've got to rush to
You
the
don't run to
store.
the store in the
Yeah,
middle of
but
the night and buy
yeah,
ice cream or more
yeah,
chocolate. No.
yeah.
See, you're probably a harmful user. So what would you need? You would need to talk to somebody. You need to share that your mother is ill. You need to get support.
Mm,
And you also need maybe somebody to look at how you eat to see if they can improve it so you don't overeat the chocolate, because it will affect your blood sugar. Maybe it affects your sleep. I don't know. It could be
mm,
slightly. So you could improve.
yeah.
And here is the good thing. And also with many people with harmful use, you can help them to eat better junk food, with better ingredients.
Yeah.
Like I tell parents when I teach them, make your own ice cream with organic whipped cream, with regular sugar, and use very little. Use fruit, use, good ingredients, and give that to your kids. And if you look at the one you buy in the store, it's a chemical shitstorm, excuse my French,
Yeah.
of the ice cream you see there. So that's what you do with them. You improve, you help them deal with why they are harmful towards themselves.
Exactly. And then
Easy
also
peasy.
obviously the processed,
Cognitive,
ultra processed, you got all the seed oils and the sunflower and the canola oils, and
that's
that's
what you teach them. You
yeah,
teach them. Buy a good olive oil instead. Stay away from these dressings. Da,
yeah.
da, 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 da. So, and then they're going to start feeling much better. But then you have the addicts. When you look at an addict, you're going to see that it is really, really, they are like a missile, locked on target. And you can do a lot of treatment with them, but if they don't get addiction treatment, they will pick up again. Sometime along the line, they will pick up. And I'm going to share some of the slides that I use when I teach my clients. That could be good to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, one of the things that okay, I wasn't at, I'll go back to the beginning here. This is what I like to talk to my clients about, because they know that they are trapped, but they feel shame for it. They think they caused it themselves. But actually, once addiction develops, which usually most of the people I have met through the years, hundreds and hundreds, is when they are children, small children. They like, as one mother told me, well, she likes only white food. And she meant, pudding and cakes and bread and sugars and all that. I never got her to eat real food like her siblings. She was the one wanting white food. And she threw temper tantrums if she didn't get it. So it's strong. It's very strong. But what it is, your reward system is sensitive, and it has to do with a lot of neurotransmitters. It's a big hype around dopamine now. Dopamine is only the conductor. It's about adrenaline, noradrenaline, GABA, serotonin, endorphin. There are many, many cannabinoids. There are many neurotransmitters. And what you could say, it's like the psychoactive substance in our foods today is like a firework. It throws, squirts all over. And that's why you feel miserable. So many people think that, do you have a supplement that can increase GABA? And then I become healthy. And I said, sorry, pal, it's not that way it works. And as you mentioned, the seed oils and all that. And if you know your brain has 60 to 80% fat, where do you think that bad fat will go? Well, in the neurons. So even if you have a good supply of neurotransmitters because you eat well, you know what? They are like the key, right? The keyhole could be broken due to those oils and nutritional deficiency. So now the key doesn't fit in the keyhole, and it has to do in order for you to thrive. It has to be a neurotransmitter in a receptor, period. If that doesn't work, your brain is hampered. Your brain will be faulty wired. And here is where, the drug gonna take over. And here's where you're going to end up, locked and driven. And you're going to think, why do I keep doing this to myself? How come I do that? Tomorrow, I'm going to start a new life. And you do 3 days, 1 week, 3 months, maybe 6 months. You ask for help, but you didn't know that you have this red dog that we call the illness lurking in your head. And it will start whispering, oh, you've been so good for so long. We could have some ice cream tonight. And something, if you're a food addict, is a physical response to the food. You don't choose the response. That's where the loss of control comes in. So suddenly, 1 bite is too much, and 1,000 will not be enough. And you go into a severe relapse. And of course, what are you going to say to yourself when you gain all the weight back or you lose all the healthy habits you had? You said, I'm the worst person on earth. Should I really live? I'm useless. I'm miserable. See, look, everybody, look at Steve, look at Bitten. They made it. Ha ha. Because they did. But they had the wrong toolbox. Nobody dared tell them the truth. And that's why I diagnose my clients and I say, you know what, you have developed an addiction. And I'm going to explain to you everything about the brain, every part of the brain, how it works, what addiction is, what kind of symptoms you will get. And also, you have to accept that and take away everything with the drug before we can restore you and recover you. So that's a tough journey. But, it's like I say to they start crying, but most clients, they cry of relief when we do the assessment, when we say you're an addict, because they think that they've been nuts, stupid, bad character, bad moral. They have beaten on themselves more than, the society are fat shaming today and body shame, and which is horrible. They don't understand the struggle people go through. And that they could help them. So they have beaten themselves worst. So that's very important to understand that addiction is not about being bad. It's about having a complex illness, a confusing illness. So what we need to do, I cannot bend you out of there. If you're locked in there to the left, Steve, I cannot pry you out there. I can encourage you to come towards me with knowledge, with compassion, with empathy, and by being totally brutally honest with you. That's what I can do. Then you can start stepping out. And you step out and I give you more knowledge, more support, more empathy, more compassion. You're doing great. People think, oh, but I'm not, totally recovered yet. No, but you know what? Your headache is gone. And they look at me, yeah, you're right. That's victory. We help them see the victories, even if they're small. You were drug-free yesterday. Victory. So we're talking baby steps. The bigger steps you take, the easier to fall. So now, the power is starting coming back in you here. on the third person. You start leaning forward. You start really coming towards me. But I keep the same approach with you. I give you more knowledge because now your foggy brain is starting to lift, and foggy brain is very dangerous in the beginning because you don't connect the dots, you know. So to be addicted and live in this addicted world is like having a piece of puzzle broken into pieces and all the pieces are upside down. And that's why people can say to me, why don't they do what you tell them? I said, no, because the brain is not connected. So we have to do biochemical repair first. The first thing is not to talk about feelings or thoughts or anything in that way. The first thing I do is restoring energy. I aim for the mitochondria.
Yeah.
People are depressed, they think, but not, they have loss of energy. And when you have no energy or your energy is going up and down, nothing is fun because you think you're bored, but actually you are in withdrawal constantly. If you look at the symptoms for withdrawal, that's where you are. So nothing, you don't have the energy to go horseback riding or take the walk with the dog or cook food or, because your energy is so low. I love what Dr. Daniel Amen says. Our mental horsepower is gone.
Yeah.
And that's where your clients are. And if you don't help them understand that and said, I'm going to help you restore your energy, that's my first aim. Once you start having energy, we talk again. Now, what do you do? That's, then you're here. You see what I mean?
I got you. I got a couple of questions just to ask there. So the first thing, if the person's addicted to sugar and that sugar and flour, you define that,
Yeah.
they stop all that. So they basically go on a
Everything.
keto diet, but it's not even low carb. We had Tim Noakes on the show. It's not even
Nope.
low carb. There's
Nope.
no sugar, no flour. What about dairy, the lactose in dairy? Do they go dairy free?
Yeah, you know what? The lactose is not the problem in dairy. It's the casein.
Yes.
Because the dairy we have today is from A1 cows. I don't know if you know the difference,
Yeah.
A1,
Yeah, of
A2.
course. We've got
Yeah,
Jersey
sure.
cows here, the A2, so that's what we recommend, the Jersey cows, the
Yeah,
A2.
of course, but most people can't come by that.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So, but usually butter and ghee works fine. So I tell people to do their own ghee, and because butter and ghee is very healthy. But take away cheese made from cow, whipped cream, yogurt, sour cream, and all those products, and replace it with goat cheese and sheep cheese because it's much lower in casein. It's a different casein, but because the casein will mimic things in your pancreas. So first of all, there is studies made that those dairy products will raise your insulin level higher than what's in proportion to the amount of carbs in the milk product.
Yeah.
That's a problem. The other problem is that people get high from casein because it affects the endorphins. We call it casio-endorphins. So you get actually an effect on your neurotransmitter from the casein. So people have a hard time with that. So we stick to butter and ghee. But in a transformation period, during about 2 weeks, we could use a liberal low carb, and then we switch to a strict low carb, and then we switch to keto. Because when I work with thousands of clients, and I go keto straight away, and no dirty keto, no keto desserts, no keto bread, nothing that mimics the drug foods.
Gotcha.
So my clients, I advise them to eat animal protein, good fats, and only olive oil, coconut oil, MCT oil, butter and ghee, nothing else. And small amounts of veggies if they want. And, I have Tamsin Murphy, the chief dietitian at Nutrition Network. She has taught me a lot about veggies and the anti-nutrients and the oxalates.
Yes.
So some people are very sensitive to that, and you know that.
Yeah.
So we work with that too. But that's basically the food plan that they eat. And I usually do 4-day in-house treatment live. And I go cold turkey from the minute they step through the door. And it's not a problem. It's not a problem. But you know, if you are a lone mom, 3 kids, you're working, and you're going to do this yourself, you need a tremendous amount of support. So there are cases where we go liberal low carb, then we keep the dairy products, cut back on them, and turn over to keto. So, but that's individual. And you have to remember what I said first. You have to be aware that people have a unique biochemistry. Some people cannot drink coffee at all. They get very sick. Or tea with theobromine. Some people can have small amounts of that. So you have to listen to the person. And you
But
have
there's going to be major withdrawal, I'm sure. If you,
if it is if you're in-house with 4 days with me, you usually over it on the 3rd or 4th day. And then, of course, I have a support program for when you come home, but it goes faster than you think. If you are a very stressful situation and have to work and kids and, you know, maybe people around you that protest that you're changing food, what are you doing? You're going to eat, you're going to die from this food, you know, meat and butter. Are you nuts? And so forth. Or the husband or the wife is addicted themselves and bring a lot of the food home, which is a dangerous cue-induced trigger. If you don't have the support there, it could be very tricky.
Yeah.
So you have to adjust. But then we have a standard food plan, the keto standard food plan for our detox clients. And I use coconut oil, I use glutamine between meals 4 times a day. I use some supplements like GABA, because most addicts, they have ruined their brakes. You know, GABA is the brake band and the brake fluid. So I worked with GABA for 20 years. And I don't know if you know Peter Wilhelmsson. He's a naturopathic doctor in Sweden. He's the one taught me everything about integrative medicine. And he's written several books. And he also wrote a book about brain with a neuroscientist at Sahlgrenska. But he helped me, he taught me about candida, he taught me about supplements. I mean, he's wonderful. So I am
I've got a
so
quick question
grateful.
before we move on to one of your clients or patients, because I think that's important from an integrative medicine perspective. I've noticed those that don't have the correct amino acid profiles, and especially the
Oh,
vegetarians and the vegans, what happens is we've noticed that they don't produce, so they don't have tyrosine or they don't have tryptophan, and the amino acids are a problem. That we've started giving free aminos, essential amino acids, and that has helped significantly with their neurotransmitters. So combining that, if someone is an addict, to remove the drug. So if we can pop that up on that side and remove the drug, you've got a better chance of having less withdrawal and helping the person sustain the eating plan. Am I correct, or do you want to add anything to that?
so I want to just point out one thing, because you are totally correct. And as usual, when you work with humans, there is a but. Okay. For people that have a severe lack of GABA, I use neurotransmitter forms that people fill in. So I see first which kind of personality they are. You know, are they a speed freak? Then I have a certain program for them. And if they are, you know, GABA serotonin dominant, I have another approach to the program, sort of the same, but if they are severely filled with anxiety and have volatile blood sugar, I'm happy to send that to you if you want to publish that one to your listeners, because that's the most important thing to understand, volatile blood sugar. If they have that, I never give anything like DL-phenylalanine, I don't give DOPA, I don't give any speed, because that would stress them tremendously. You have to repair the brake first with glutamine, breathing therapy. You know, I use the relaxator. They tape their mouth at night. I work a lot with that, teaching that, you know, conscious breathing with your nose. That's an incredibly important tool, because you have to remember that all these people, they overbreathe. they they overbreathe, they overeat, they overspend, they over everything. So they're overdoers, and then they crash and they are underdoers. That's an addict, up and down. Hoo-hoo. So I'm very, in the beginning when the microbiome is very broken, I'm very careful with a lot of supplements. I use only 3 or 4, like fish oil, magnesium at night, salt shot, GABA, glutamine, until I see that the worst withdrawal is over. Then you can start using more supplements. And also, I don't use many supplements at a time. I usually have them 3 or 4, and then after 6 weeks, I switch. And then after another 6 weeks, I switch. Because, first of all, addicts like to think that a pill will fix them. So, then they start being lazy with the food and start popping pills. Even if it's supplements, that can play havoc with your biochemistry.
Sure.
So I'm not overdoing supplements. I have had clients come to me that are on 35 supplement pills a day, and their stomach is broken, their mind is broken, they're so stressed, and they don't sleep.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention too that, and I love the way you pointed out, that's extremely important to know if you are an addict. So that I used to tell my clients, don't go to the gynecologist if you broke your leg.
Yeah.
So because any other eating disorder, food problem expert, they will always try moderation eating. Doesn't work on addicts. Then we have another problem, addiction. Sugar is the gateway drug. Sugar is the first drug you meet when you're a baby or a toddler, and even in the womb. So if you are born with this sensitivity in your reward system, that is starting already with the food to set you up to become addicted to nicotine. If you try that, to alcohol, cocaine, gambling. The big problem we have today, screens. People get really hooked on screens today, and that rewires your brain in an addictive way. So actually, I'm not a sugar addiction specialist. I'm an addiction specialist. I work with all outlets. So we call that addiction interaction disorder. So that's important to understand too. That
Now,
when
also,
we do this,
would this also apply to sex addicts? Because you think now,
sex and relationship addicts, absolutely.
yeah,
Here you have it. Exercise, religion, work, you're absolutely right. Behavioral addictions.
yeah.
Yes. And there is studies showing that you get the same screwed up reward system from that as you do if you pop cocaine or sugar. Yeah.
Now, listen, if you're listening on audio now, you go to the YouTube, it'll be up there. This is an incredible slide about addiction interaction disorder. Very, very important. All the behavioral addictions, because at the end of the day, and we didn't mention this, but very importantly, what I learned from Bitten is addiction, if I say the Latin correctly, is addicere, which is to be enslaved. Now,
Yes.
you don't have freedom because you're enslaved to something or someone or behavior or a
Yeah.
sugar. You're enslaved there, and that's not true freedom. So I think that's crucially important for people to see the bigger picture. Is you can be enslaved to a supplement, you can be enslaved to a relationship, you can be enslaved to anything out there, and that's not true freedom. So I think that's important to understand, to have a look at these slides on YouTube.
Yeah. And also what we say about recovery, the goal with recovery is being happy, joyous, and free. You choose everything in your life. It's not choosing you.
Mm.
Mm.
I
And
wanted to
also,
ask this quickly because I think it's what I'm understanding more and more. Just, we had Kristen Willemeier who worked with Dr. Daniel Amen on the show,
oh
neuroscientist.
yeah, yeah,
We've had quite a few, Dr. Hill, Andrew Hill, talk about neurofeedback. Is that there needs to be direct work on the brain itself. That I think is fundamentally important if there's an addiction, because it's a brain disease. So as
correct.
this drug, you've got to get withdrawal, but then you need to work on the brain itself. Otherwise, if you don't work on the brain itself, you're not going to get healing there. And I think that's important for people to understand that are out there.
Absolutely correct. And people come to me and said, help me lose weight, help me lose weight. And I said, okay, but I'm not a weight coach. I don't work with weight problems. I work with brain problems. So if you're addicted, I know how to help you heal the brain. And as a good side effect, you're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
But I focus on working with all the outlets. I don't work only with sugar addiction. I look at all the outlets. I look at all the consequences, the foggy brain, anxiety, the feeling miserable, depression, and mood swings, blah, 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 whatever. I work with healing all that. And that's, called biochemical repair. Therapy is not the answer. You can not go to talk therapy and keep taking the drug because you're going to screw everything up even worse. So a lot of people think that you're an addict due to trauma. You're not. Addiction is a primary illness. It's caused by your brain's reaction to a psychoactive substance or a process. You have an addictive prone brain.
Yeah, and I
And
think
I
that's
used to
important
joke
to
that,
understand because you might have trauma. Like
yes,
in South Africa, you might have trauma, and then you go and you start eating more, but there's a critical point that you then become addicted. So now it's not just looking at the trauma and what happened to you and having a look at all those things, because if you carry on taking the drug, you might do, like you said, it might make you worse. The therapy is not going to do that. You have to sort out the addiction, the actual biochemical addiction in your brain.
you have to heal addiction first and get that in order. Otherwise, if you go in trauma therapy with an addictive, screwed up brain, you can reinforce the trauma and be severely PTSD. So, it's not that we don't address trauma and anxiety, but it's timing. And many times the reaction to a lot of things that happen to you are totally out of proportion because your brain doesn't work because it's addicted to a drug.
Yeah. But aren't
Yeah.
we all addicted to something? But as I'm
No,
talking, yeah,
no,
this
no.
is what I want to hear from you. I've been in medicine 25 years now. I've never missed a day's work. I've been checking my labs for a long time. And if I look at the reality, okay, I used to, maybe I'm more a harmful user because it doesn't affect, and looking at those signs and symptoms. But it seems like, even exercise, I'm exercising 7 days a week. If I do the assessment, it could come out that there's some addiction that I've got. It seems like in this crazy modern world, to become free of addictive
Steve,
substances.
I don't want to water out that word addiction. It is a deadly brain illness. It's a primary illness, it's progressive, it's chronic. So let's keep that's not like
Yeah,
everybody that have weird cells have cancer,
no,
right?
sure.
Yeah. So I want to tell you what, it's a big difference between really, really liking something or
Mm,
even some compulsive behavior, which
yes,
doesn't have to be sick to do it, but
yes.
you like it a lot,
Mm,
right? So I don't want people to think that everything they like or do often is an addiction, because I want to point out that with addiction, you have to have severe negative consequences, physically, psychologically, socially, and spiritually. You empty inside, you're locked in. If you look at that picture with the addiction piece in the wall, I don't think exercising 7 days a week keep you locked in. Has your children and your family, have they ran away from you because you exercise? No. So what I want to point out, I want people to feel that they dare have passion.
yeah,
There's a big difference in having a passion and do something a lot and be good at it, and having an addiction. Remember, addiction is always hiding, lying, sneaking. It's a baffling, powerful, very strong brain illness that keeps you trapped. So, yeah. And
okay.
it gives a lot of these consequences.
Mm.
So that's important
Yeah,
to see.
let's look at same. I don't know if you've got a male or female sort of client or patient. I know.
Yeah, I'm going to show you that. But this is what we feel a lot. And I also want to point out that the shame and the stigma and the denial, this picture is about denial, is biochemical. I explained to you how your brain get hampered It's disconnected between all parts. Your prefrontal cortex is hampered. Your limbic system is overreacting. Your neocortex is asleep. Your reptilian brain is woo, eat or we die, eat or we die. It's very highly active. And your reward center is highly active, and your pancreas is active, giving you hyperinsulinemia and volatile blood sugar. So you see, you're trapped in that triad, and you think you're nuts. But denial is, biochemical. That's why a client, you have to use a special language to go through that thick rubber wall to reach through the biochemical denial to help them see the truth. Because if they don't, they're not going to do what you tell them. So in the old days, we used to do confrontation. Hey, Steve, you're an addict. Don't you see you're an alcoholic? You're screwing up your life, blah, blah, blah. That's very dangerous. That's for car mechanics doing brain surgery is what I jokingly call that.
Yeah.
Confrontation is very bad. What you have to do is carefrontation. Like if you were an addict now and I just had done this test on you, I would be very, very empathetic with you, and I would wait for your reaction. I wouldn't, knock you over with this knowledge.
Yeah.
But wait for you to step out of the rock. See, come towards me. More knowledge, more knowledge. Here is the simple questionnaire that you can let people have. It's called the UNCOPE, and if you have 2 or more, you probably have a problem, but it's either harmful use or addiction. You answer 4 or more yes to this one, if you're really honest, you do have a severe problem. Then you would need to go to a professional.
Okay.
So I just wanted to point that out.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. And here is the curve. When we do the sugar assessment, which I developed many years ago from, other skeletons of assessments, like for alcohol, cocaine, pills, gambling and all that. So I redid it for sugars, as I call it, with an S, meaning all the flowers and everything. This is the curve you get. You get your own curve if you're addicted. If you have harmful use, there won't be a curve because we don't need a curve. But here's where you help a client to see the yellow dots is the progression of the illness. You see, this special woman had 2 symptoms at the age of 8. And then they start piling on, see, more symptoms, more symptoms, more symptoms, more symptoms. And you see the weight, here she have done a crash diet, up, down within less than a year. And then she goes on the diet again, and she goes up again, and she goes on the diet, she goes up again, and down again, and up here. Desperate, not understanding, why can't I make it? So she does bariatric surgery, which, could be life-saving for a few, but gives you long-term negative consequences. I don't know if you meet those people or talk to them, but they get severe nutritional deficiencies. That's making me so sad. And so many of them that I've had as clients, they said, if I've known what I know now, I wouldn't have done it. I would not have done the surgery because they have to battle broken stomach, intestinal problem, foggy brain, nutritional problem, risk of relapse in the food. They are my heroes. They fight. So, and also what I think is interesting with the curve is if you look, you have some, I used to work in the heart intensive, so I call these flat lines. That's maybe not a good word, but plateau or whatever. And you think, oh, the illness was, didn't move at that time. Look at what's happening to the weight curve. Oh, why is this doing? My mouse is really weird. I need to go back here. If you look at, we ask them, what happened here between 15 when you gain weight and dieted and up to here, 25, you have another symptom. I was exercising day and night. I was dieting. I tried pills, powders, I tried anything I could get my hands on, but it didn't help. I developed fibromyalgia. I developed diabetes type 2, hypertension, depression. So, the battle is on and on and on here, even though you don't have a deep progression of the symptoms.
Yeah.
So this is very, very sad. So this is, many years, 35-year-long battle with this illness, on and off, up on the wagon, down. So, and I tell my client, and they, feel miserable when they see this. I tell them two things. First of all, the further back you look, the further forward you can go. One thing. So understanding how it has affected you will give you the tools needed to go forward, the new toolbox. Also, I said to them, I don't think a normal person would have survived all the things you have done through these years. And they say, what do you mean? Well, look at this. You gain weight, you took it away. You gain weight, you did anything you could. You have so much grit and resilience fighting this illness. What do you think going to happen if you use that with a new toolbox? And because they looked at them so bad, like low life, worthless, not being able to do anything. And I said, it's the opposite. You are among the strongest people I know.
Yeah.
So those two things is very important to convey to them.
Brilliant. That's very, very good. Very, very good.
Yeah. So it is 67 question. It takes about an hour, 30 minutes, depending on, how many things you want to talk about to do the interview. And then you have these results. And then, of course, my students and I, when we do these, we give you a very detailed, extensive recommendation. Here's your treatment plan. This is how you start. This is what you need to do. Because not everybody does the same thing. So that's what the sugar assessment does. So we always start with the UNCOPE, the 6 simple questions to see about where you are. And then we recommend the sugar. So this is what I train people to do sugar on clients that you think could have a problem and help them see this, and also help them to use the checklist, the information to take them into a new life, because it gives you everything you need to do a good treatment plan.
Yeah. It's got to be based on an assessment. And that's what I've believed always, and I think is when it's not based on assessment, then a lot of these things don't work. And that's why I was so excited to look at your work, because these are, very, very important. Okay, so you've got a slide on, we'll put these links. I think these links are crucially important, for those that are listening, we'll put them in the show notes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I used to say that dare diagnose and I don't treat guesswork.
Exactly.
No, I want to, and I know you know that with integrative medicine, because I think integrative medicine are much better at diagnosing and looking at all the aspects of a person's life holistically, and then start correcting what needs to correct first. I love holistic medicine. This special medicine we have today, it's good. I mean, if I have a kidney illness, I like to talk to a kidney expert, but it's too sad that he doesn't know where my heart is or where my brain is. We have been so good at highly specialized medicine that we have lost the connection. But with addiction, everything is connected.
Absolutely.
And that's where integrative medicine comes in.
Good. All right, let's finish up maybe with one, just because we're coming to the end of the show, just maybe one client story. I think that would be really, really good, just so that people can hold on to.
Yeah, we could talk about Niklas. He doesn't have any problem with me sharing about Niklas.
Okay.
A young man, he was 27 when he came to me in 2019, and he's been addicted since he was 5 years of age. And he remembers starting wars with his dad and then throwing temper tantrums so that his dad would go to the store and buy him sweets. So he manipulated the surrounding already at 5 years of age, to get his drug. And he had severe weight problem. He was diagnosed with high blood pressure at the age of 12.
Yes.
And he could not go to a regular scale. So he had to go to a special station where they weigh trucks in order to weigh himself. He was really, really overweight. The normal weight at the doctor's office wasn't enough. And he was filled of shame and anger at everything. And he didn't understand what was going on. And his parents took him to the child psychiatry, and they put all kinds of letter diagnosis and all kinds of bipolar and depression and everything on him as a kid, but he never got a full-scale diagnosis. And the doctor always told him, eat less and move more. But how do you move a body that every cell is swollen and in pain, with the wrong fuel in your engine, so you don't have any energy? So of course, he went home and ate, junk and watched the screen. He didn't have any energy, and nobody understood that. And then he went to the gym, and he couldn't, of course. He decided to starve himself and go to the gym, and he knew nothing about food. And one of the PTs at the gym said one day that the way, boys, to be really big is to increase insulin. So of course they started to eating all the foods, and you know what those foods are, to increase insulin. At the age of 22, he had tried alcohol, cannabis, opioids, benzodiazepines, and steroids. And thank God he got very sick from all of them. So he tried one at a time and sometimes several. And then he got sent to a treatment center where they at least taught him to not take the alcohol and the, psychoactive other substances like cannabis and all that. So he quit that. But nobody taught him about addiction. And he was, sniffing, the nicotine sniff. So he had that left, but he came back home and he gained even much more weight because now he didn't have those other drugs and he was too tired to go to the gym. So he weighed 180 kilos when he called me desperately one day and said, could you please help me? And this was in April 2019. And do we have time to share a picture of him? Because I know he loves to share. So I'm going to show you quickly a picture of him. I need to turn this down.
Yeah, for those listening out there, while we get the photo app, is that there is hope. And I think when we do end the show, the reason I'm so excited about this model is that many people have got shame. They don't have the willpower. They don't have the means. They keep on failing. They just self-worth just decreases. So, I think it's really, really important that as we grow and learn, and those that are listening and those that are watching on YouTube, looking at Nicholas, here, the photo is up, but you might be saying to yourself, I've tried everything, but that's where the assessment comes in to see where you're at, and a tailored approach. People are trying to do behavioral modification, but they're not really assessing where you're at. And I think that's the point that is crucial. And make no mistake, if you're a harmful user, you still got neuropeptides and neurochemicals that have been, and neurotransmitters that have been affected. So, but it's different when you
and your
have
microbiome,
in your microbiome. So there are levels, and that's why you've got to tailor the approach to where you are on that continuum.
Absolutely. This was Nicholas when I met him in 2019. The only life he had was to sit in his room and eat crisps, play with his puppy and his computer. And he had no social life, no training, no school, no work, no nothing. And only did see the blinds are down, filled with shame and not understanding what is going. So we started working, and he was a tough case because he wasn't, the one saying, okay, I surrender and do everything you said. He said a lot of why. And I said, quit asking why. Do you want to be happy? Do you want to be, do you want to lose weight? Do you want to be healthy? And he said, yes. Okay, do as I tell you.
Yeah.
But, we love each other today. He's a wonderful, wonderful young man. So anyway, he lost a tremendous amount of weight. But not only that, it's important to talk to that Niklas has went back to school. Niklas has a job today. He's an alcohol and drug addiction counselor assistant. He works with young men with this problem. His puppy's trained. I met him. It's a lovely puppy. He has his own apartment. He has a girlfriend. And you know what? He's learned to cook.
Wow.
He
Wow.
hadn't even boiled an egg when I met him.
Yeah.
He's very healthy and goes for long walks in the forest. He's forest bathing. He goes to the 12-step program and he shares and he takes support. And he's a lot of fun.
Wow. Well
So
done,
he still
Bitten
calls
Johnson.
me now and then. So he lost a tremendous amount of weight, and and he
Well
wants to
done.
become he wants to do training with me
Fantastic.
and help others with the same problem. And his curve was miserable.
Mm. It does seem like there are more, and maybe this is a genetic sort of change, but it does seem like there are more addicts. I've been practiced 25 years now. There are more addicts that are sort of part of the population. Do you see that increasing?
Yeah, and I thought a lot about it. I think, first of all, I think it is more addicts because we have more addictive substances. Like sugar is the most dangerous addictive substance, the processed food, and it's pushed through the food industry. The marketing is more aggressive, and I think it's more accessible. It's a legal drug. I think people get it too early, so the brain isn't developed yet. So that's why, when you become addicted, you become severely addicted. So I think that addiction has really, really increased in the last years. I think about Patrick Holford, you know him, Food for the Brain? Yeah. He talked about, he made some comparison of numbers, and he said in England in 2000, I don't remember exactly which year, but anyway, there were 25 million sugar addicts, but only, half a million heroin addicts. If you look at those two numbers, what do you see in the press? A lot about cocaine and heroin, and not a lot about sugar.
Yeah. It's big
Yeah,
food, unfortunately, that is controlling a lot of the marketing and the
of
profits there.
course.
But
Yeah,
you want to declare favor and blessing over you, Bitten. You've got an incredible calling. You've got high energy. You've just absolute purpose, and just
thank you.
look forward to connecting with you and going through this assessment myself. But we need more people looking at root causes, and I think this is a big root cause that has been missed. And
It
there's
is.
been a lot of shame and a lot of people that are walking around saying, I don't have the willpower, I don't have the personality, I'm too weak, I'm too feeble. And it's causing a lot of damage. So,
Yeah.
for you guys listening out there, there's a lot of hope with Bitten, and we're going to put the links in the show notes and that. And want to share this with your friends and family, because I do think it's crucially important. And I think, addicted to sex or addicted to porn or addicted to food, a lot of people are really struggling now. And I think the brain has become more sensitive to becoming addicted because of all those factors and variables. So thank you so much, Bitten. Just wish you well. And I know we're going to connect offline now.
Thank you very much for having me on, and good luck with the future. And if anyone wants to email me, please do so. I'll guide you.